Good evening. Good evening. Welcome to the League of Women's Voters of Hingham's annual Candidates Night. My name is Elizabeth Danis, and on behalf of the League, I would like to thank the voters for attending this educational evening. I would also like to thank the candidates who are participating this evening. We appreciate you taking the time to help voters make informed decisions on Election Day. Finally, our League would like to thank League member Chris Wilk, who organizes this event each year, and also our moderator, Elizabeth Foster Nolan. The League of Women Voters is a nonpartisan political organization that encourages informed and active participation in government. We do not support candidates or political parties. However, we do advocate on public policy after research study and consensus. Because of our nonpartisan position, we must adhere to certain guidelines when hosting our candidate forums. In contested races, we are not allowed to ask questions of a candidate if their opponent is not present. Our moderator may not be a member of our League or a Hingham resident. We do not allow any type of outside recording, as videos may be edited and not represent the actual proceedings. This evening can be viewed in its entirety on our League's website and along with the recording of the 2018 warrant review. We address as many questions as time allows and will reframe them if they are attacking in nature or appear biased. We hope you find the forum helpful, and we will see you at the polls on April 28th. We ask that you please silence your cell phones as a courtesy. Now I would like to introduce our moderator, Elizabeth Foster Nolan.
Thank you. I feel like every year I have a date in Hingham in April. For the record, I always like to clarify, I grew up in Hingham. I do not live in Hingham. I'm over the border in Weymouth. I am a member, though, of the Massachusetts League of Women Voters, and I am a trained moderator, having been trained by the Massachusetts League of Women Voters, and enjoy being part of the forums in the various towns. And I have to thank Christine Wilk, who has been very helpful in terms of getting us, getting me the information ahead of time, so that this can be an educational forum. It is not a debate. I just like to make that clear to people. And the questions, as I said, have been solicited and will be asked for those where we have more than one person in a contested race. So everyone who was running for election within the town was invited by the League of Women Voters to attend the forum this evening. Some people are unable to attend. Everyone was given an opportunity to provide a 2-minute statement that I would read when that position came up if they were unable to attend. Some people chose to provide that statement, so you'll see that I will be playing the role of a few people this evening. Other people preferred not to send in a statement, but that was the choice of the candidates who are running. It was not the choice of the Hingham League of Women Voters, and I just want to make that very clear. I also want to make it clear that the filming that is happening this evening, the Hingham League of Women Voters owns that filming, which is why it was said that there cannot be any filming done here. Everybody's already silenced their cell phones, their iPhones, their iWatches, everything, so we don't have to worry about that, but that's the reason for that. And we've asked people to take off any signs related to any candidate, again, because this is a forum and it's nonpartisan, so you were not singled out. It was just the way we have to do things under the League of Women Voters rules. So we are going to start With the candidates who are in uncontested races, they are allowed a 2-minute statement. There will be no questions. So I would ask that we have Eileen McCracken, who is a candidate for re-election for town clerk for 3 years, to join us at the table. Carlton Al Chambers, who is running for Board of Assessors for the 3-year term, to please join us at the table. And then James Watson, who is also a candidate for re-election for the Housing Authority 5-year term, to join us at the table. I will be reading a statement by Mr. Stoddard. So, Ms. McCracken and Mr. Chambers, you will go, and then I will speak. So with that, we have our timing folks in the first row. They will give you a warning, 1 minute, 30 seconds, and then stop. We ask you, when you see the red, to wrap up what you're saying, and I will say thank you if you go over, but I don't expect any of you to go over. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm Eileen McCracken, your town clerk. Some of you might be saying, I thought she was retiring. I was planning to, but when we had a change in the town administrator, I was asked if I would consider staying. I thought quite a while about it, and after being home with my husband for a few days, I realized that I was not really ready to go. So here I am, glad that I'm able to run again and continue to perform the duties of the office. This year, besides town meeting and town election, we will have midterm elections, which will include early voting for the general election and possibly the primary. I'm excited that we will be using new voting machines starting with the town election. They are similar to the previous machines, but with great updates. I hope you'll go to the polls to try the new machines and fill the oval next to my name, even though I'm running unopposed. I thank the League for having the forum and for everyone present tonight.
Thank you. Okay, I forgot to say, please hold your applause to the end. We will then thank all of the candidates. It'll just help us move along a lot smoother and make sure that we keep on track and on time. Mr. Chambers.
My name is Carlton Allen Chambers. I live at 86 Central Street, which is the Lincoln School, and I pretty much grew up in Hingham, not all the way, but I've served on a number of committees, a small number of committees. Way back when, I used to be on the Industrial Development Commission. I'm delighted to have this opportunity. I was asked to consider it because of my real estate experience, and consequently I was going to ask for appointment to the one-year position, and decided with the election coming up I'd go for the full 3-year term. It's an interesting job. It's pretty well governed in terms of the capacity of what the Board of Assessors can do. There are codes for every type of property. There's hundreds of codes for the property in this town. And in the town, there's about 8,000 properties that are taxed. There's also 500 of those are commercial properties. The idea, of course, is to evaluate the buildings individually and how they will, so that people are paying their fair share and not a penny more. And the highest taxpayer in Hingham is Linden Ponds. Thank you. And I'm looking forward to having the opportunity to work with these people. You've got a talented staff. And I was asked a question the other night that I don't think I answered sufficiently, and that was, do we really need 3 assessors? And after some thought, and I said, well, of course I said, hell yes. After some thought, it occurred to me that that's a constitutional privilege.
Thank you, sir.
You're welcome.
Peter Bickford is running as a candidate for re-election for the Board of Health for the 3-year term. He is not here this evening, and he did not send in a statement to the League. John Stoddard is a candidate for re-election. He is running for Municipal Light Board for a 3-year term, and I will read the statement that Mr. Stoddard did send in to the League of Women Voters. Hello, and thanks to the League for sponsoring this event tonight. It is with great pleasure that I run for re-election to the Municipal Light Board. I consider it an honor to be granted the opportunity to serve my fellow residents and businesses in this capacity. I was born and raised here. My wife and I have raised our children in Hingham, and I have lived here my entire life. I attended its public schools and have a business in town. It is a beautiful town, and the residents have a tremendous sense of civic responsibility and pride. That ethos drives me to run for re-election. I was first elected in 2000, and am pleased with what the lighting plant has accomplished over the past 18 years. With your vote, I will be part of its continued success. As we have all experienced, when there is foul weather, Hingham's lights stay on, and if they go out, the men and women of the HMLP get them back on quickly. One need only look at the neighboring towns to see what a great job they do at this important task, and not just on stormy days and nights. It is their attention to detail 365 days a year that makes this happen. Some of our recent accomplishments: implementing a rate reduction while our neighbors' investors-owned utilities raise their rates, conversion of our streetlights to an energy-efficient LED type, the introduction of a rebate credit formula for customers who install solar arrays on their premises, a formula which the state's Department of Energy Resources is emulating for all municipal light plants. For customers who generate their own electricity, devising a net metering credit and sending the excess to the light plant's grid. Compensation to the customer is equal to what the light plant pays and its other suppliers. Hingham Light became the first municipal lighting plant in Massachusetts to be 100% carbon-free in its electricity supply purchases. With your support, we will continue to make our municipal light plant a part of town to be proud of. Thanks again for your vote of confidence. And we will now move on to Mr. Watson.
Hi, good evening. And again, thanks to the League for doing this. Since moving to Hingham in 1972, I've been involved with a number of town bodies: the Baker Hill Study Committee, the Conservation Commission, the Fair Housing Committee, the Housing Partnership, and then most significantly the Housing Authority. On the Housing Partnership, however, we did a couple of important things. We drafted the initial inclusionary zoning bylaw, since modified into the flexible plan, but it's still there, and initiated a housing loan program financed by CPA. Unfortunately, we couldn't find anybody to operate it, so that it did not finally occur, and the money was turned over to the Housing Trust. And finally, we developed a potential housing development on some land behind the Plymouth River School, donated by the school committee at the initiative of Mark Cullings, which also didn't happen, but it was hopeful. The Housing Authority itself is a state-required entity. Every town has one, directed by 4 elected members from the town and 1 appointed state appointee. In Hingham, we have 78 one-bedroom apartments for low-income elderly and handicapped, 6 congregate units, 8 family townhouses, 14 units in a residential program for troubled youth at 100 Beale Street, and then 50 Section 8 vouchers, which can be used in any community, which give people more choice, and 5 vouchers used for the homeless veterans on Fort Hill Street, and 1 single-family house on Scotland Street. But despite many things, but they're a long way from meeting the needs. These plus the town-owned Lincoln apartments and the various affordable units in some of the 40B developments still leave a major gap. So we presently have a waiting list of over 500 people, and commonly 5 years or more. We're looking for opportunities to meet these needs. Some on Beale Street, where we were hoping to do a 55-plus development, that got a needs study and a design study by CPA, but we haven't gotten further money to go on with it. But since then, we've been in some preliminary discussions with several groups about a multi-agency, mixed-purpose development. May I finish the sentence?
Yes.
Okay. For the elderly, for development delayed young people, and for workforce housing. And we do hope to continue working on these issues. Thank you.
Appreciate it. Thank you very much. We will now ask Mr. Higgins, Ms. Donlin, and Mr. Puzo to join us at the table. Mr. Higgins is a candidate for re-election running for the Sewer Commission for the 3-year term. Ms. Donlin is a candidate for re-election running for the Recreation Commission for the 5-year term. And Mr. Puzo is a candidate for re-election running for moderator for the 1-year term. So I would like to start with Mr. Higgins. Again, 2 minutes.
Thank you, and thank you for inviting me. I've been on the Sewer Commission for 5 years, and over the last 5 years, we've accomplished a great deal as far as capitalization and recapitalization of the system. It was pretty much in rough shape. There hadn't been any investment in the system for many years, and but we are going forward, and we're doing very well, and we're doing that without a very huge rate increase. We're really sensitive to rate increases, but we're getting the work done, and we're finding other ways to attract a little money, like from the MWRA, and I'm very pleased with what we're doing. And the future looks pretty good for us. We're reducing the leakage in the system significantly every year. We spent over $1.5 million chasing leaks and leaky manholes and infiltration and inflows that are illegal. So we're working very hard, and the credit really goes to the sewer department employees. They've done an excellent job interpreting what we're really trying to do. And then finally, we're still working on the South Hingham sewer system. There's a lot of infrastructure issues up there. It's not going to happen very easily. It's going to take a significant amount of capital, and we don't know who's going to pay for it, but we're going to keep trotting along, and hopefully within the next 5 years or so, we'll have a better idea of where we're going. And I'm very proud to serve my community as I have been for over the years. I'm a veteran, and I love Hingham, and thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Donlin.
I've lived in Hingham with my husband Fran for 46 years. Our son David was born here, and I became involved immediately in the town as a Cub Scout leader, a soccer coach, school aide, Plymouth River council member, middle school PTO co-chair, and then advisory committee member. Professionally, my passion has been business, and particularly women in business. I co-founded the South Shore Women's Business Network locally here, and then founded a newspaper called Women's Business, which I ran for 10 years before selling it to the Boston Herald. My love for business and health and recreation brought me to the Recreation Commission 5 years ago, and I thought, what better way to get involved in town than to give back to this wonderful organization. So for the 5 years, I've given all my energy. I've been chair for 5 years. And what I find fascinating about the Hingham Rec Department is the fact that it's a self-funded department. And so often people in town don't realize the kind of programs that are going on. So let me tell you, in the last 5 years, we restored and repurposed the Hingham Rec Barn, which now provides dance programs which generate $250,000 a year. We've put in 2 playgrounds and 1 ready to go, Bradley Woods, Crest Field, and Hull Street with CPC funding and some extra funding through the Rec Department. The Rec Department runs a summer camp, 2,300 students, campers each year. Last year, for the first year, we took over the country club's pool and managed that successfully for the first time, bringing profit to the South Shore Country Club. The summer camp, golf, tennis, and pool program brought in over $100,000 last year. And finally, nothing could be said about the Hingham Rec Department without talking about 60 years running of the 4th of July road race. This year, 60 years, Best Chevrolet, our great sponsor, I have to give a kudos to them, which helps provide some needed maintenance and help with other programs. I look forward to continuing with the Hingham Rec Department. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Mr. Puzo.
Thank you. Thanks to the League, of course, for sponsoring the forum. It's a pleasure currently to be serving as your town moderator and to stand for election to an additional 1-year term. It's clear that part of the essential element of Hingham is our commitment to open town meeting. I invite you all to reflect on the unusual nature of a town as large as Hingham, relying upon its citizens with voice and vote to serve as the town's legislature and not to job it out to others. We're used to representative forms of government throughout the United States, and the fact that we are still self-governed is, to me, an essential part of Hingham's very DNA. Obviously, the most visible role the moderator plays is to preside at the meeting. I endeavor to do that to the best of my ability to run a fair and efficient meeting. The less visible but equally important responsibility that the moderator has is to appoint worthy and interested citizens to a host of boards and committees. Among them, of course, are the advisory committee. All 15 members of the advisory committee are appointed by the moderator, as are all of the members of the personnel board, the water supply committee, and various members of other committees, including the CPC and a host of committees. The responsibility that you all have is to step up and offer to serve on these committees, as many of you do. I recognize so many of you in the room tonight. But Hingham is self-governed, and the fact is we have an opportunity to create a wonderful community. It requires all of us to take on these responsibilities. When the Talent Bank Forum is in the warrant, I encourage you all and people who might be watching this at some point, take one. There's a good appointment for everyone. It's a pleasure to serve you, and I look forward to serving you again for another year.
Thank you. And I would like to thank all of the candidates for the uncontested offices who joined us this evening and who were not able to join us this evening. The next group that we will be asking to join us at the table are those candidates for contested offices for the Board of Selectmen, the Board of Assessors, and the Housing Authority. Because some candidates were unable to attend this evening, we will not be able to have questions for these races. The reason for this is that we are not allowed under the League of Women Voter rules to have an empty chair debate unless we have two people who are here. And we do not have that this evening, so that is the reason for no questions. Each of the candidates will be allowed to give a 2-minute statement, and I will have a statement to be read for the Housing Authority. So when we get there, just so we know. So we'll start with the Board of Selectmen. There are two candidates running for the Board of Selectmen, Mary Power, who is a candidate for re-election, and then Russell Reeves, who is not present this evening, who is also running as a candidate for Selectman.
Thank you to the League of Women Voters for hosting tonight's event and to my fellow candidates for being here tonight. I'm Mary Power, and for the past 3 years I've had the honor of serving on your Board of Selectmen, and I'm standing for re-election. I'm very proud of our accomplishments, which include delivering 3 balanced budgets without an override, negotiating labor contracts that the town can afford, achieving our 40B affordable housing minimum requirement, negotiating a long-term lease with the Hingham Maritime Center, establishing a Route 3A and a compressor station task force, preserving over 50 acres of open space in Glad Tidings Plain, implementing an accelerated road building program, and initiating an effort to understand the financial impact of large capital projects. I have an MBA and 33 years of professional experience in both finance and human resources, and have drawn on that experience in many ways. I believe it will be helpful to the town as we move forward, managing leadership transitions and evaluating the capital projects in the pipeline. Hingham is a wonderful and well-run community, as evidenced by our AAA bond rating. Our bond rating is a reflection and an affirmation of sound management and financial practices. As a selectman, I feel a special accountability for maintaining that bond rating. During my tenure, I've carefully considered the impact of every decision, financial or otherwise, on our bond rating, and I hope it's served the town well. I pledge to continue doing so if reelected. I respectfully ask for your vote on Saturday, April 28th, and I thank you very much for your consideration.
Thank you. We will now move on to the Board of Assessors. Robert Keyes is also running for this position. However, the League did not get a statement from Mr. Keyes. So we will now move on to Chrissy Roberts.
Thank you. Hi, everybody. I'm Chrissy Roberts. Thanks for having me tonight. Running for the 1-year term on Board of Assessors. A little about me. I'm a mom of an 8th grader and 5th grader. I've lived in Hingham for nearly 20 years. I have an accounting degree from UConn. I was an internal auditor for a few years, went into HR, and have been a stay-at-home mom ever since. Ever since 14 years ago when my daughter was born. I've been a very active volunteer in that time, especially at East School, where I've been assistant treasurer, PTO president, and ran our annual appeal, our largest fundraiser. I'm also very active at St. John's, where I've been Sunday school director, many positions on the Holiday Boutique Committee, and I'm currently the outreach chair. I've also volunteered on the Historic House Tour for many years. I submitted my talent bank application last year when I realized my elementary years were coming to a close and was appointed to the Council on Aging. And that showed me two things. One is that I love trying something new and getting to meet some new people and learn some new skills. And I have even more time to give. I think my husband might wish I got a real job now, but I'm just going to keep volunteering instead. So here I am running for Board of Assessors. I love Hingham's rich volunteer history and wanted to try something new. I'm comfortable taking on the assessor role for a few reasons. I have lived here a long time in 3 different houses, and I get the housing data to my email every day, and I'm comfortable with home values. There's no shortage of people to learn from either in the office with 4 full-time staff members who have been doing it many years, and Mr. Hall's been on the board for 33 years. I have the financial background, analyzing data. I'm comfortable with numbers and spreadsheets. I have experience working on teams and providing a balanced and value-added opinion where needed. But perhaps more than any of that, I'm passionate about volunteering, obviously. I have the drive and the commitment to do a good job, and it's not lost on me that I would be one of the only women to ever hold this position. So, thank you.
Thank you. We will now move on for the Housing Authority. Megan Burr is running for a 2-year term.
Hi, my name is Megan Buer. There are 2 open seats on the Housing Authority right now. The one that I'm running for is finishing out the last 2 years of a 5-year term. If elected, I would be the 3rd person in this 5-year term, so it's clearly a very exciting seat to be in. But I'm really looking forward to trying my hand. Housing affordability in Hingham, I think we all know, is a major, major issue, and that's true across the state. The state actually mandates that every town and municipality in Massachusetts has a housing authority to provide affordable housing for as many people as possible. There's sort of 3 good reasons for this. First of all is so that older people who want to downsize can stay in the town, in the community that they're in. A second reason is to provide housing for low-wage earners in towns so that they don't have long commutes. I'll mention now that housing affordability is based on the median income in town, and so in Hingham, you can qualify for affordable housing if you earn under $100,000 for a family of 5, or for a family of 4. Sorry about that. I'm running because I really want to support all of the above, and I think that communities have a responsibility to take care of the most vulnerable members of the community. I think that it's important to note that there's a very fine line between middle class and struggling to afford to stay in a community, and that we owe it to everybody in town to maintain safe, affordable housing. Again, my name's Megan Buer, and I hope that you'll consider voting for me at the end of the month. Thanks.
Thank you. Mary Pizzelli is also a candidate for the Housing Authority for the 2-year term. And I do have a statement that Mary sent into the League. I regret I am unable to attend Candidates Night due to a previous engagement. I am happy to provide some of my background in education. I attended Derby Academy through 8th grade and graduated from Hingham High School in 1952. I was a member of the first class of women to graduate from Boston College in 1956 from their School of Education. I was hired by Walter Baker Chocolate as a bacteriologist. I taught 7th grade at St. Joseph's School in Quincy, then started my own school, which I ran in my home for 15 years. I then was a substitute teacher in Hingham and the surrounding towns. I was on the town's capital outlay committee for 6 years. I continued to work at the polls during town elections every year. I enjoy staying active and involved in the political sphere in Hingham. I have followed the business of the Housing Authority for many years. As a senior citizen, I felt the frustration of the residents when the town neglected to replace or adequately maintain the boiler at the Lincoln School Apartments. I also believe the process of maintaining the waiting list to get into those apartments should be reevaluated. As Hingham's population ages, affordable housing for our seniors must be protected and prioritized. Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
We will now move on to the candidates for contested races for school committee first, and then the planning board. So I would ask that the candidates for the school committee please join us at the table. And since we haven't really gone over this, just to remind you, each of you will be allowed an opening statement for 2 minutes, which will then be followed by questions that I will provide. You have 1 minute to answer the question, and then you will have 1 minute for your closing statement. The order in which you are seated is the order in which you are on the ballot. Then for the question portion, there was a lottery that was done by the Hingham League of Women Voters as to who would start first, and then they will rotate. So we will go through everybody. And again, just a reminder, it's 2 minutes, 1 minute, and then I'll remind you again for the closing, which is 1 minute. So I would like to start with Ms. Calnan.
Thank you. My name's Aileen Calnan, and just as a little background, I've been a resident of the town of Hingham for 30 years with my husband, David. We have 2 daughters, both of whom graduated from the Hingham Public School System. I'm an attorney here in town. I've been practicing in Hingham for over 25 years. I have a proven track record of commitment to the town of Hingham. I have served on the original accessory dwelling unit planning board study group. I'm also currently a member of the Hingham Affordable Housing Trust, and I'm the trust's designated member to the Lincoln School Apartments Board of Managers. I'm just finishing up my first 3-year term on the school committee. During my tenure on the school committee, I have served as the secretary. This year, I'm currently the vice chair. I've also participated on the policy subcommittee, and as part of that, worked on updating the memorandum of understanding between the school department and the police department here in Hingham. I'm also on the salary and negotiations subcommittee. I chaired that this year, which means I was an integral part of the negotiations with our collective bargaining units doing all the new contracts this year. I think that I bring a voice of reason and collaborative spirit to the school committee. I am seeking re-election to continue working on the important matters that are facing the school department, such as the foster school building and also the upcoming superintendent search that we are about to embark on. I want to continue to work on maintaining and modernizing our facilities as necessary, to continue providing our children with the tools to succeed, such as the current program we are implementing regarding health and well-being curriculum, and also to ensure that our students are receiving a well-rounded and challenging education, considering the the increasing enrollment that we're facing at the middle school and at Hingham High School. There are 2 spots open on the school committee, and I would ask for 1 of your votes. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Lewicki.
My name is Libby Lewicki, and I'm running for school committee because I want to be a part of the conversation with other critical thinkers who have the well-being of our public school systems and our children in mind. I want to ask the hard questions, and I want to do the homework to help make informed, trustworthy, and respectful decisions. With my education and practical experience, I will bring a unique perspective to the table. I'm a product of public schools in Maplewood, New Jersey. I graduated from Hamilton College cum laude with a degree in sociology. I have an MBA with a focus in nonprofit management from Brandeis University. I'm a proud graduate of the Citizens Police Academy. And most of my professional jobs have been in the nonprofit sector. I'm married to a Hinghamite, John Lewicki. He's here. We have 2 boys. Kyle graduated last year. Emmett's a sophomore at the high school, and we've been very happy with their experiences. I volunteered as PTO president at South School and then again at the high school. Aileen was my predecessor at the high school. Most uniquely, I've been a substitute teacher for 6 years in Hingham. I've been in all 6 schools, all grades, all subjects, from nursery school through 12th grade. I know what it's like to educate, evaluate, engage, and protect our children. There are many important issues that are coming before the school committee in the next 3 years. Aileen touched on them: superintendent, foster school, full-day kindergarten, health and wellness center at the high school, just to name a few. My experiences have converged to this point where I sit before you today and ask for your vote so that I can tackle these challenging issues.
Thank you. Ms. Nee.
Thank you to the League of Women Voters for hosting tonight's event. My name is Carrie Nee, and I'm very excited to be running for school committee this spring. My husband Glenn and I have 2 boys, ages 11 and 14, and they both have special needs. So our journey through the school system hasn't been traditional. Along the way, we've met the most talented and caring professionals who have worked with our boys, and I've been awed and humbled by that. Their dedication has inspired me to get involved, to volunteer, and to give back to the people who do so much for all of our kids. I've been fortunate enough to serve as the South PTO president for 2 years. I'm a founding board member and current vice president of South Shore SNAP. I'm the South School liaison to Hingham CPAC, and I was selected to serve on the Special Education Continuous Task Force. Additionally, I've been active at the Hingham Middle School PTO, where I served on the mini grants committee. And I was a professional musician before I went to law school, so I play along with the high school string players to accompany the chorus, and I tune violins and violas before the all-town strings concerts. Through all my volunteer work, I've learned and continue to learn a lot about Hingham Public Schools, the great things we do for our kids, the challenges facing our schools and our communities, and the ways we can grow and improve as a district. If elected, I believe my experience in the Hingham Public Schools, as well as my background as an attorney, could be an asset to the school committee. If elected, my priorities would be: 1, supporting the development of more STEM, science, technology, engineering, and math programming to ensure that our students have the ability to navigate our rapidly changing technological landscape. 2, advocating for more social and emotional education to ensure that our students have the supports they need at school, as well as the tools they need to navigate the world when they leave Hingham Public Schools. Finally, I pledge to ensure that education dollars are efficiently spent so that our students get the best possible education with available resources. Please reach out if you have any questions, concerns, or thoughts. I'd love to hear from you. Thank you.
Thank you. We will now move on to the question and answer portion of the forum. Again, just a reminder, you have 1 minute, and we will start with Ms. Nee. First question: how will you, as an elected official, balance managing the school committee's goals and responsibilities while responding to the demands and concerns raised by constituents?
Well, thank you. So the school committee has 3 responsibilities. One is the hiring of the superintendent, which will be coming up. The other one is to manage the budget and then policies. But I think it's really important that the school committee represent the community. I think community outreach will be a big part of that. But the school committee acts as a board of directors, and the administration is like the CEO. So we can guide the administrators, but we will rely on them for input as to how the direction we should be going with that.
Thank you. Ms. Calnan.
I think that the most effective way to involve constituents is what we actually have started doing very successfully recently, and that's a lot of open public forums. One of the things that I particularly will be supporting is in the superintendent search is forums that involve the community, people who don't have children in the schools, people who do, teachers, students themselves, to try to come up with a profile of the characteristics people are looking for in our new superintendent. I think those are the kinds of things that we could do to balance involving constituents. Because ultimately, the school committee and the school administration's task is to look out for the best interests of our students and for our schools. But clearly, we have to do that with also wearing the hat of being mindful of the cost to the taxpayer. So we do have to listen to the community and what they have to say and try to balance all of that. And the best way to do that is by having community forums, I think.
Thank you. Ms. Lewicki.
So when somebody said to me recently that they had really appreciated my style when I was PTO president at the South School, because I was very approachable and welcoming of everybody. And I know that over the years that I've been in Hingham, 20 years now, I've met many, many people and feel a warm relationship with just about anybody, and I hope to capitalize on that and expand on that and have people know that I am approachable and you can come and talk to me at any time, and that I will listen and I will bring that to the table. And I do believe in transparency, and I created a website at the PTO at South and also at the high school in order to increase transparency, and I will do whatever seems realistically good for the school committee.
Thank you. We'll now move on to our second question, and this is where we will start rotating. So we will start with Ms. Calnan, go to Ms. Lewicki, and then Ms. Nee, just so you know the order. Second question. As the district searches for a new superintendent to head the school department, please share with us the characteristics and issues you are looking for in a candidate.
The characteristics and issues. I can definitely share characteristics. I'm not sure I understand the question.
I will take the liberty, and I believe what the questioner was trying to say, and the issues you see facing a new superintendent.
Thank you for that clarification. The characteristics that I think are of utmost importance in today's superintendent is communication skills. There has definitely been a paradigm shift as far as communication with the superintendent's office, probably largely due to the ease of email than it used to be once upon a time. And I know Dr. Gallo is confronted every day with a lot of email correspondence. So we need somebody, and she does a wonderful job of communicating, and we need somebody who's going to continue and grow the ability for that particular position to communicate with the community and with parents. As far as issues, I think, that are facing the new superintendent, that job has really shifted. There are a lot of state mandates they have to deal with every day, on top of parent communications, on top of just running the day-to-day operations of the schools. I think the biggest issue we're going to find is, in my opinion, is finding a person who's going to be willing to put in the time that Dr. Gallo does each day to do that job.
Thank you. Ms. Lewicki.
So just to piggyback on what Aileen has just said, we are in a knowledge-based economy now. It's a school system that was designed by Thomas Jefferson for an agrarian-based economy, and that was perfected by the industrial age. So we need to be able to accept change when we can, and we need somebody who can help us to envision what things will look like in the future. And with all the social and emotional issues that are against our kids these days, we also need to be looking to their emotional sense of well-being. And so I think those are two important things that a new superintendent will have to keep in mind.
Thank you. Ms. Nee.
I think what I would look for in the next superintendent, I think we need someone who's going to be very proactive and has a strong vision for our schools that also aligns with the town's vision for the schools, so we can work together. I think we need somebody with a very good understanding of educational policy and all of the different policies that are out there, and someone who has very strong managerial skills, who is, as Aileen said, an excellent communicator. I think we need someone who's going to be politically savvy, who can go and not just get the school committee on board, but the community and the other branches of government to build support for their initiatives. As far as issues facing, I think education is changing. As we can look anything up now on a computer, so we need students who can work together, and the model is changing. So I think that'll be a big thing. The social emotional landscape is really changing. The anxiety is increasing in schools, so we need to make sure our students have the skills to navigate that, and to be able to also the STEM curriculum and coding is going to be very important.
Thank you. Ms. Lewicki. Aside from the leadership transition, what are the three top 3 issues facing the Hingham Public Schools in the next few years.
So clearly, we're going to be hiring a new superintendent. This is hasn't happened in many, many years. We need to figure out what to do with foster school. And a good question is, can we afford full-day kindergarten? I put those 3 at the top of the list for now.
Thank you. Ms. Nee.
I would say the issues foster school is obviously the most imminent. We have to do something about it. Hopefully, the Massachusetts School Building Authority will grant us, which will take some of the burdens off the taxpayers. I think the social emotional landscape that's out there. The rising anxiety, we've started to address that with the BU study, so that will be helpful. And then, as I've been saying, the coding and the STEM education for our kids, it's another. These are some of these things are mandates. The social emotional and the coding, the science curriculum are state mandates. So we have to find a way to make sure our kids get what we need to navigate the world.
Thank you. Ms. Callahan.
I would agree that the foster school project is the first and probably the primary issue that we are going to be facing. We still don't know if we're going to be accepted into the MSBA program. If that doesn't happen, what is going to transpire to solve the foster school problem? So that's definitely paramount. I think there is also a real issue with the mandates that do keep coming down from the state. We've got things coming regarding coding classes and STEM classes that have to be required, and things regarding screening for potential drug use that we have to do in the schools now, and none of this is funded or funded fully. So an issue of how to continue to pay for all of these mandates that keep coming down. And just the general issue of the health and well-being, we're really focusing on that, and it is becoming a broader issue across the community, and particularly the schools are not being left out of that issue, and we are doing things to try to implement new curriculum and programs to work on those issues.
Thank you. Now for our last question, we will start with Ms. Nee. The school committee regularly reviews tuition rates charged for programs such as Kids in Action and full-day kindergarten. Please share your philosophy on a public school district charging parents for programs.
That's a great question. We do charge for not only Kids in Action and kindergarten, but the activities fees. My personal philosophy is that public schools should be public, so publicly funded. So, but there is a limited pot of money, and it's important to have these activities available. Especially Kids in Action, I believe, does very well and is kind of self-funded, and I think even turns a profit. But so for kindergarten, though, I think when we initially decided as a town to have full-day kindergarten, the idea was to eventually make it free. Most of the state has free full-day kindergarten now. And I think I'd like to work in that direction. It's not something that would happen next year or the year after. It would be slowly, because it would add something to the budget. But I think if we decide as a town that that's what we want, then we will find a way to do it in a relatively painless way.
Thank you. Ms. Callahan.
Unfortunately, fees in schools have become the norm. Hingham doesn't even actually charge fees that some other towns do. We don't charge for people to ride the school bus, and there are many towns now that charge a fee to ride the bus. I would have to separate out the Kids in Action program, because the Kids in Action program is a program that certainly benefits the students and certainly helps parents, but that's a program that has kids that come before and after the school day. So I think that charging a fee for that is completely and absolutely appropriate, because we're providing a service that's not related to the actual education of the students during the school day. As far as other things like full-day kindergarten, unfortunately at this juncture, if we weren't charging a fee, we would not be able to offer that. So we are in a position where we simply had no choice. If we wanted full-day kindergarten, that was the only way that was going to be achieved. Yes, if we could fund it, that would be wonderful. At this juncture, it's not financially feasible, and I believe it would have to be something that would have to be voted on at town meeting so that we know whether the community wanted to spend the money to do that.
Ms. Lewicki.
My personal philosophy is that we should invest as much as we possibly can in the public school systems, and it's a question of how much can we, but also how much do we want to. And I'll work with whatever you guys are willing to provide and come up with the best solutions possible.
Thank you. We will now move on to the closing statements, starting with Ms. Calnan. Again, a reminder, you have 1 minute for your closing statement.
I think that I've brought a lot to the school committee. In addition to the roles that I've played, I've also volunteered for extra positions. I served on the athletic director search committee last year. I was also the liaison with the Hingham High School Rowing Association and worked on developing the first memorandum of understanding between that group and the school committee. I think that at the end of 3 years on this particular committee, you're really just getting up and running, and I feel like I really have a lot to offer. I've learned so much over the past 3 years, and I hope that you will consider re-electing me on April 28th so that I can continue on with the work that I've been doing and that I truly value and am so grateful to be able to participate in here on behalf of the town and our children.
Thank you. Ms. Lewicki.
As a parent, a volunteer, and a substitute teacher, I have grown to love the schools in Hingham. I love the people. I love the kinetic energy that percolates in the classroom. We entrust our children, our most valuable societal assets, our leaders of tomorrow, to our public schools. Therefore, investing our money, our time, and our energy today in the public schools is the best insurance policy ever for a safe and vibrant tomorrow. I will work within a tight, balanced budget. I will listen to the public. I will do my homework. I will collaborate with the other boards, the administration, the parents, the teachers, and the students, with the goal in mind of fostering an environment where each and every student can thrive and graduate as a civic-minded young adult.
Thank you. Ms. Nee.
Thanks again to the League for hosting tonight. Hingham Public Schools are the foundation of our community. This is where we grow our youngest citizens and continue the culture that makes Hingham so special. The next few years will be extremely important for the schools as we celebrate Dr. Gallow's leadership, but also look forward to the kind of community and schools that we want. It would be an honor for me to bring my experience with Hingham Public Schools and in the community, as well as my training as an attorney to help with these important transitions. If elected, I pledge to listen to the community, to advocate for school department leadership, and to continue to improve our excellent public schools. Again, please reach out if you have any questions, concerns, or thought. I would love to hear from you. Thanks again, and I ask for your vote on April 29th, or 28th.
Thank you very much, and we appreciate all of you joining us this evening. We will now move on for the Planning Board, where we have Judith Sneath and Crystal Kelly, who are running for a 5-year term for the Planning Board. Again, just a quick reminder, 2 minutes opening statement, 1 minute for each question, 1 minute for the closing statement. And again, we will do this in ballot order for the opening and the closing, and then the lottery, and then we'll rotate back and forth. It's pretty easy with 2 of you, so hopefully I don't goof that one up. We will start again with the opening statement with Ms. Sneath.
Hi, and thank you to the League, to Crystal, and to all of you for being here. I'm Judy Sneath, and I just want to tell you a little bit about my involvement in Hingham and why I'm running for the Planning Board. I've lived in a historic home right downtown across from the Snug since 2003. Through the Greenbush construction, I was the director of the Downtown Business Association, and in 2006, I was elected to the Planning Board. In my 11 years on the board, I served on several other committees, most recently as chair of the South Hingham Study Group. Since leaving the board last year, I've chaired the Route 3A task force, working with Hingham, Hull, Cohasset, and state officials to make safety improvements along that corridor on the north side of town. I love the work of the Planning Board, balancing the individual rights of private property owners with the concerns of immediate abutters and the interests of all the town's residents. This, after all, is what living in a community is about, balancing our individual needs with the greater good. We look out for each other and invest in our shared town, as you all know. The planning board leads in-depth conversations about how we should live in this town. It can be difficult, and not everyone is always pleased, but the board does find greater balance, and the process always improves the project. So why am I running for the planning board? With 400 new families moving into 240B projects in our northwest corner and still undefined development looming in the southwest corner, with our water supply really nearly tapped out and growing frustrations with traffic, the planning board needs a member who knows our neighborhoods, is well-versed in Hingham zoning, can reach across town committees and town lines to find balanced solutions that serve the greater good, that preserve our unique character and also encourage investment in the future. I have faith in the work of Hingham's Planning Board and would like to continue to contribute to this town. And I welcome your questions and ideas. Thank you for being here.
Thank you. Ms. Kelly.
Hi, I'm Crystal Kelly, and I'm running for the open seat on the Planning Board. Before I tell you about myself, I wanted to thank the League of Women Voters for hosting this event. I wanted to thank everyone who's attending, and I wanted to thank the other candidates. I love Hingham. This is the most amazing community. Every day I'm moved by the beauty of the town, from the harbor to the picture-perfect Main Street to the close-knit neighborhoods just beyond it. Hingham is the town that I've chosen to raise my family in, and I'm so proud to be part of this incredible place. I live with my husband and my 4 kids in Liberty Pole. Our 2 oldest sons attend South Elementary School, where I'm the co-editor of the PTO newsletter. Our 2 youngest sons are in diapers. I'm an attorney by trade. After graduating Suffolk University Law School, which I chose to attend because of its focus on public service, I worked at the Massachusetts Land Court. The Land Court is a court of limited jurisdiction, and it can only try specific types of cases involving real estate. And that would include appeals of zoning board decisions, planning board decisions, 40B cases, and matters arising under the subdivision control law. Those are all subjects that regularly come before the planning board. After the land court, I opened up my own practice where I specialized in land use, zoning, environmental, and real estate law. I made my career representing abutters to various projects all over Boston and the surrounding suburbs. I'm also a member of the Volunteer Lawyers Project, and I provide representation to neighborhood groups for environmental justice advocacy. Fundamentally, I'm a problem solver. Through my legal work, I was always presented with pieces of complex legal and factual puzzles that I had to assemble in such a way that it resolved my clients' issues. What I will bring to the planning board is my very relevant professional background and experience, as well as my keen interest in municipal planning. I will put a fresh set of eyes on Hingham's issues while continuing the tradition of excellence from the board. So I humbly ask for your vote on the 28th. Thank you.
Thank you. We will now move on to the question and answer portion of our forum. Again, 1 minute for each answer. And we will start with Ms. Sneath. Now that the 40B threshold has been reached, how would you like to see the town continue to provide affordable housing for all who want to live here?
Now that the threshold has been reached, the town of Hingham has control over what type of housing we add to our housing stock. I think the first thing that we need to do is hold forums like we have in the past where the people who live here talk about what their needs are. One of the first steps that we have already taken is the ADU bylaw in this year's warrant to help people whose family members want to stay in their homes and to have an accessory dwelling unit. We have heard a lot about the need for workforce housing for people who want to leave their big homes in Hingham and stay in home, and for young people who are starting families who grew up here who want to return. So I think that we're going to have to look at a combination of those things.
Thank you. Ms. Kelly.
I think one of the big things is that you have this with the safe harbor from 40B, that we have a little bit of a break as a town to look at the master plan and to see where, if there's a place for deeded affordable housing, that would be sort of Hingham-sponsored affordable housing instead of having something come in from a 40B project. And I think that's something that's worth to look at. I'm not saying that's necessarily the right fit for the town, but again, I think that's something that should be brought to the people. People should talk about it, whether that's something as a town that we want to do, because I think that this is an opportune time to do that. In some of the other studies that have been done in town, they've looked at build-outs it would be feasible to commission a study to look at a town-wide build-out to see how many housing units the town could possibly have, and then look forward to building or enticing a developer to build deeded affordable housing, moderate income housing, so that we will always have 10%, even if the housing stock rises beyond the amount that we have now. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Kelly. Over the past year, there has been significant pushback from some regarding potential multi-unit residential developments in downtown Hingham. How well do you think we evaluate such proposals today?
I think Hingham does a very good job of evaluating the proposals. I think Hingham does actually, one of the things I've been very excited about with the planning board is that I believe that there is a very thorough vetting done. I think that, in some contexts, you hear people say that permitting needs to be streamlined, and I think one of the advantages of not having streamlined permitting like we have in town for the most part for most of these projects is it gives a lot of variety of input from the different boards, the different commissions, and that you end up getting a project that I think that fits really well with the town. And I believe that in the context of that housing which was referenced, that's the process that had happened. So thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Sneath.
Yeah, the two projects that I can think of are Lincoln Schools and the Settles Glass. And I know that our planning board each of our boards does a great job, but I think we can do a better job, especially in a district like the downtown, of getting our boards together to talk to each other about what the goals are and what their criteria are. For the Lincoln apartment building, the Hingham Development Industrial Commission worked really closely with the property owner to kind of keep them informed in what the town was looking for, and that worked really well. I think with the Settles Glass property, that could have, maybe the communications didn't go as well, and I'm not really sure, because I wasn't involved in it, how it could have gone better. But really the message, I think, is that we have to continue the good work that we've done on each of the boards and to have a cross-board communication on these things.
Thank you. Ms. Sneath, what is your position on the accessory dwelling unit warrant article? What do you see as potential next steps if it passes?
Well, I think the ADU bylaw has been a long time coming as a town. We've heard again and again and again that people want to stay in their homes and they'd like to have a way of having either their children move in or their parents move in with them. The planning board did an incredible job this year of pulling together a lot of different needs, different concerns that have been expressed over the past few years and kind of hit up against walls all those times, and coming up with a bylaw that restricts the number of units, restricts the size of the construction, and really it's a special permit, so it gives the abutters a chance to voice their concerns. The next step would be to see how it goes and then see if the town wants to increase that accessory dwelling unit in any way.
Thank you. Ms. Kelly.
I'm not going to disagree with what my opponent said. I think that the planning board did a very good job getting all the interests into this one bylaw, and I think that they did a very good job of meeting all the interests here. One of the things that I could see potentially coming up as an issue would just be the parking. They have it as one spot per accessory dwelling unit, and I could see that. I could see some issues arising with the parking, but again, I think that this is something that, as time goes on, will have to get fleshed out, and also putting this contingent on a special permit and going through the special permit process is going to allow a lot more oversight than there would be otherwise, and that I think that will iron out a lot of the potential issues. Thank you.
Thank you. We will now have our last question. Ms. Kelly, recognizing that there are various committees that are involved in development, what are your views on opportunities for further South Hingham industrial development?
Oh, wow. I actually have, I'm actually fairly familiar with the South Hingham study, perhaps not as much as my opponent is here. But I believe that study put forth multiple viable options for development in the South Hingham area. And I think that's something that the town should seriously consider, and the town should work towards coming up with a finalized solution. I think that the opportunity to capitalize on the tax revenue is too great there. That may be also an opportunity that you could do some of this, like I mentioned in my earlier answer, deeded affordable housing, if that's something that the town might want to do. Maybe that might be a good spot for it, do a mixed use project down there. You know, there's a fair amount of land there, and there's a lot of opportunity for creative projects to bring needed tax revenue to the town and you know, sort of fun amenities to the town. You know, I personally very much enjoy going to the Derby Street shops. So it's a benefit for me in this town.
Thank you. Ms. Sneath.
It's a great question, and it really, the market has yet to produce a project in that area in all the years of zoning. But what we did learn on the South Hingham study group is that there are serious infrastructure constraints for any major new development in that area. Well, sewer and water, as you know, it's ledge and there is no sewer and water up there right now. But particularly the roadway, Derby Street is congested, as anybody trying to get through there knows. And through this study group, we worked with property owners to commission a study that gives us exactly what the tipping point is on that road. So any project that comes in should definitely be some kind of mixed use, but the developer needs to come in with a plan for how to deal with all of these infrastructure issues.
Thank you. We will now move on to closing statements, starting with Ms. Sneath. Again, you have 1 minute for your closing statement.
Well, thank you again for coming here. I just want to talk a little bit about the role of the planning board. There are 5 members. The role is to study, to listen, to question, to apply the zoning bylaw fairly and consistently. And it's a bylaw that was developed by the town. So what qualities should you, the town, look for in a planning board member? I'm convinced that the best candidate is a learner, is respectful, and is solution-oriented. As learners, board members need to prepare. They need to listen very carefully to the applicant and especially to neighbors. Respectful board members are fair. Again, they listen carefully, but they show a really well-informed respect for Hingham, for the character of this town, for what's gone on before, and for the quality of life. And finally, solution-oriented, again, with guidance from staff, we can come up with really good solutions that balance private property rights and the greater good. I believe I've demonstrated these qualities in my years of community service and hope to earn your vote on April 28th.
Thank you. Ms. Kelly.
I want to thank the League of Women Voters for the opportunity to address the voters of Hingham. I'm asking for your vote. I am very well qualified through my background as a land use and zoning attorney to hold this position on the planning board. And I'm so incredibly enthusiastic about our town. If I'm seated on the board, I will bring an inquisitive mind, my legal background and knowledge, and a fresh set of eyes to Hingham's development and planning issues. I may not have been here for 40 years, but I'll be here for the next 40. Thank you.
Thank you. So we are done with our forum for this evening, and in closing, I would like to thank all of the candidates for their participation in the democratic process and for the Hingham League of Women Voters for sponsoring this event. Please remember to vote on Saturday, April 28th. The polls are open 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. Please encourage your friends, your neighbors to vote. Offer to provide rides to the polls for people who you know cannot make it to the polls. If you will be out of town for the election, please contact the town clerk's office. Their website is great with all of the information that you may need for absentee ballots. So please consider that. This forum will be available. It will be posted on the Hingham League of Women Voters website. It will also be available on Harbor Media, on Hingham's local cable channels, and their homepage until the date of the election. And the times will be published in next week's Hingham Journal. So please remember to vote. My tagline for those of you who have been here before: democracy is not a spectator sport. Please vote. Every vote does count. So thank you very much for joining us this evening for the forum.